Hi guys, today we're here talking about AP Reach Team commitments. And the second commitment today is being teachable. These commitments were actually drawn from a survey done, and one of the highest responses was, we need people who can be teachable and who are open to instruction. So it can be really challenging when you're coming into a new place and a new environment. You're having to basically relearn everything, like you're a 2-year-old, like you're just a baby. So can you comment on what it was like when you first came to the mission field here in Japan?
Yeah, absolutely. This is actually something that God began speaking to me as I was preparing to get to the field. I began to really realize that the ministry I had done back home was going to be a lot different than the ministry that I was doing, or that I would be doing here in Japan. And, God just started telling me, you're really going to have to almost unlearn a lot of the things that you have learned, because it's just not going to apply to this culture. And I think that's really one of the most important commitments that we can make in this list of commitments, is to be teachable. There's people who have been on this field, right, that have been working for so many years and who have learned the language and who have figured out the culture. And so, we kind of have to be pretty foolish to come over here and start saying, well, this doesn't make sense, or I wouldn't do this way. It disrupts the team that's already going on and that you're coming to be a part of. And being teachable is really just an attitude that all Christians, right, should exhibit. And so, when I got to Japan and landed on the field, we really did. Me and my wife, we felt like toddlers, right? Like, you can't really carry on a conversation with everyone that you run into, even like doing simple tasks like going to the post office. Like, it's all kind of daunting at first, and you really have to rely on your team leaders. Mm-hmm. And I found personally, too, that the greatest asset and servant that I can be comes when I'm willing to be teachable, right? When I'm willing to put aside maybe the methods that I used in the past, or just, to be teachable and to say, hey, how do I do this? I think a big part of being teachable is asking questions, right? Not being afraid or too prideful to be like, well, I don't know how to do this. Like, the reality is, you're not going to know how to do a lot of things when you first arrive on the field, and your leaders are prepared for you to be little toddlers, right? Yeah.
I think that all just comes down to, again, the attitude of humility, being humble. Walk into the situation knowing that you don't know everything, you're going to make mistakes, and that's okay.
Right.
But can you learn from the mistakes? That's the biggest thing. Can you humble yourself and be willing to put yourself in a position of not being the leader, but being the one who's following, being the one who is not always in the forefront, but taking a step back. So when I first came here to Japan, the biggest thing was I knew the language and I felt like I had a really good understanding of the culture. So I was like, yeah, this will be great. This will be fine. And I was just kind of knocked back when I first came, and I felt like, everything that I had learned, no, it really didn't apply as much as I thought it was going to be. And especially, I am working with a local Japanese pastor, so I was having to learn a lot of different cultural things that they just don't teach you in books, a lot of experiences that I think I had to learn how to really be in the Japanese culture. And I found what was happening was my American culture was kind of pushing back on that. And I was like, but this is the way that things should be done. This is the way that things were done. And I had to sit back and go, no, is this really biblical? Is this really Bible? Or is this just me and Beverly wanting to do things in that way or feeling more comfortable? And I think it's just really being humble, being able to step back away from yourself and go, hey, I need this time to learn. I'm here first and foremost to learn and to support the people who are here.
Yeah, Beverly, I think that's such a good point. When you mentioned having a mentor and having this teachable spirit, if we're not teachable, then as good as a mentor may be, they're not going to get very far with us, right? Like, we have to be willing to be vulnerable with them, tell them what areas that we're struggling with. And not only that, but to allow them to point out areas where we can't maybe see that we're not performing very well. And sometimes, that can be painful if you don't have that relationship with that mentor. And for me, it's reminding myself that, God has placed these leaders in my life, right? Like, these leaders aren't just random people that I happen to be serving with on the field. Like, these are people God has put into my life to teach me. And when we look at it from that kind of perspective, it makes it a lot easier, right? To let our guard down and to be teachable. And really, that's one of the best things that we can do coming onto the field, is having a teachable spirit, a humble spirit that says, I'm here to serve. I'm here to add to this team. And knowing that, the best way you're going to do that is to be teachable.
So I think one of the challenges is coming in with an independent attitude of like, I can do this by myself, or coming in with previous experience and saying, hey, I've done this before. I know how to do this, but not really realizing that this is a whole new situation. And I think you have to start to unlearn some of those things that you had previously learned that were helpful, and adapt yourself to that situation, adapt yourself. And I think you have to kind of take your pride out of it. You have to kind of get rid of your pride. You may be coming in with experience and be like, yeah, I've done this. I've done so many things before, but you really just have to kind of let that go. And again, humble yourself under the teaching of your leader, or especially like coming in that you're new, and under the advice and guidance of other mentors who are there in your life. So I just want to encourage you to be prayerful, ask God to give you a spirit of humility, stay humble, stay teachable, and that's the best attitude that we can have here on the AP Reach teams.